Welcome to Slow Living Diaries. Today I'd like to speak about a topic that impacts us all, some of us more than others, but there just seems to be no escape from the grips of this algorithm. Whether you are a content creator, an artist, or someone who just casually uses social media, we are all tied into this web. I think a great place to start would be my journey on social media. It started back in 2007, and I would say the main platform that I invested a lot of my time into was MySpace. What was really cool about MySpace was when you add your friend, anytime your friend shared something new, you would see it. And this kind of continued on and on into Facebook, and at some point, friends became followers. I was still okay with this because I was still very much in control with what I see. That's always been a very key thing for me. I'm not really interested in looking at things that I'm not interested in. And so the whole idea of adding someone or choosing who you want to follow, just so you can see those things and kind of have a stream that is pleasing to you. The social media platforms began to run ads. But to run ads, you need people's attention, and one of the smartest ways to get someone attention is to show them what you think they want to see and more of it. And so I realized I was starting to see loads of different posts in my feed that were not from people that I followed. And I've always been quite strict with the people I follow. You know, most of my social media accounts have very low numbers in terms of who I follow. I've got quite clear boundaries around who I follow and why, because I wanted to be in control of what I'm seeing. I used to have a rule: if I just saw any negativity in my feed, I'd unfollow you, But now you can see all of that whether you follow someone or not, which takes me on to my point today about the algorithm and how destructive it can be for our mental health. I think what's quite dangerous is how quickly we can form habits. And so you may look at yourself today and say, I'm not the kind of person who does this, or I'm not the kind of person who does that. But it can change very quickly based on routine. And so for many people, maybe you, when we wake up in the morning, we pick up our phone and our minds already have been taken from where we are into this web, and we consume. The first thing we do is we consume, and it may even start before that. You may pick up your phone and you may see notifications. It could be the news, it could be sports results, it could be text messages, it could be reminders of things you've got to do this day before you've even really truly woken up and given thanks for what day is it. You haven't even figured out what day it is. You're just kind of like straight on the phone, and we're consuming. And in that very moment, our attention, our presence, our essence doesn't belong to us because we are plugged into everything outside of that. If you are someone who uses social media as business, as work, you may go to the analytics and check what your video did overnight and kind of measure your worth and measure how good something is based on what happened while you were sleeping. And, do those numbers make you feel good? If you're someone who just uses social media to browse and for entertainment, you start your morning with a random selection of videos that have been tailored towards you, whether it's good for you or bad for you, whether it's good for your productivity or bad for your productivity, whether it's something that's offensive to you or not. You cannot control that once you open your phone and allow it to have your attention. The algorithm is not a bad thing. However, it collects so much data that it kind of decides what's best for you. And this could be your views on life, your political views, your faith. It could be your perspective on different topics in the world. It's giving you more of what it thinks will keep you hooked. So you spend more time on the platform, and as a result, you are able to see more ads that people have paid for. It gives you this kind of rush, this dopamine rush, and you do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And before you know it, you need to do it. You have to do it because something will feel wrong if you don't check. And with so much content out there, one of the things that the algorithm does is it gives you the illusion of choice. You know, like, okay, you can follow this person, or you can click through to that video, and then it suggests another video, and it makes you feel like you are in control, but you're not. And we are forced to see, whether you scroll or you swipe, you still are taking in this content, and it can become quite destructive to your perspective on the world, because it's shaped by what you're seeing on a screen and not the real tangible moments that make reality. I used to think this about TV adverts when I was younger, that they tell you things that you want before you even know you want them. And they usually do it by asking you questions. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? You just think, oh, actually, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. Then you need this pill, or you need to do this. And then you start thinking, maybe I do need that. And then what do? You go on your phone and you Google it, and you're like, okay, reading about it, reading reviews, and now other people's opinions decide if you should take this tablet or not, because apparently you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's one small example. And that search can lead on to something else, and now you're in something else. And you're the furthest thing away from that moment when you just opened your eyes for the first time in the morning. You are in this web and you've not even left your bed. And then it had me thinking how much of our life is lived intentionally by our own choice, and how much of it is driven by the things that we see and the influences that we get from other people. And so I noticed this trend, once I started my YouTube channel back up, I saw everybody doing the same videos. And the reason for this was because those videos were trending, they were popular. And I remember a similar thing with using Twitter back in the day, and everyone using the same hashtags and different things. And there was just something about that way of creating that just didn't sit right with me. I've recently been having conversations with a good friend of mine about just creativity. I see myself as an artist, and the way that I create doesn't always fit this current model of quick, fast content and almost meaningless, quick, fast, meaningless content. It doesn't feel authentic to me to create that. And so I create these longer pieces, these film pieces, even though the world has changed. I create them because that's the place I like to create from. And what does this mean for someone like me and the algorithm? Well, it can mean a few things. It can mean that my videos may not get as much views as guy over there who is putting out so much content that probably filmed on his phone, and just catchy quick titles and hooks and all the rules. And while I think there's a place for that, as an artist, it just doesn't sit well with me. And so I had to really analyze, what am I willing to compromise and what am I not? For me, the authenticity of the messaging and the way I would like to do it, the way I would like to see it, I cannot compromise that. And so we've been having these back and forth conversations about it and trying to find a middle ground. And I just have the belief that the cream always rises to the top, and there may be a place for fast, quick-paced content and catchy, hooky things, being a part of those dopamine hits for other people. But I also believe that the opposite can be true, and that there could be a place for calm, slow, non-rushed, no pressure, no agendas, and art that isn't analytically driven. I create from a pure place, and I have fallen into those traps of how to beat the algorithm in 2022, how to beat the algorithm in 2023, how to get the most views or the most visibility. And it's kind of like, what feels worse? Trying to get more people to see your work and it not happening, or changing who you are, changing your art, manufacturing it into a way that you think the algorithm wants it to be, and still not getting any views. I would rather do what I love purely, fully, and say that piece of art is exactly how I wanted it to be. And so that's kind of my perspective from the creator side. Now from the consuming side, I think it's also important to understand that you are, as a consumer, a part of the business model. The whole kind of like, share, subscribe, a lot of that is because you are helping their business. And if you are a true supporter of someone, those things are very important, because as you help them to subscribe, it helps them to get more views, it helps them to get more watch time, and ultimately, eventually end up creating an income from it. And I think a lot of artists just want to be validated and also feel compensated in some way for their work. A lot of work goes into this, and I know some amazing creators who their work's not seen, and so it's hard for them to find time to create at the level that they do because of finance or lack of. And so I think if there are people out there who you genuinely like the work that they create, and that it is a good dopamine hit for you in a positive way that makes you feel good or adds value to your life, support those people. But even with all of that being said, I still believe that it's important for us to create space for ourselves away from this web. And so that may start as something as small as when you wake up in the morning, you don't check your phone. You do very human things. You be where you are for a moment. Spend some time with yourself before you give your attention to the world. Because if you think about it, most of our mornings start with devices or outside noise, and our evenings before we go to sleep, the last thing you may do is set an alarm or check. Maybe you're watching something and then you fall asleep. And if you go to sleep digital and you wake up digital, you haven't really set yourself up to be the best human version of yourself throughout the day. And so I think balance is important. And so digital minimalism comes up for me, where I am very selective with the apps that I have on my phone, screen time, how much time I will spend, even checking my analytics of my videos, because it's still important. But I'm very mindful of my consumption, and even though I cannot control what's on my feed anymore, I'm very, very selective with how much time I'm scrolling and just killing time, because I'm not trying to kill time anymore. I want to experience time, and I believe you can only really experience time when you're present. And I don't know for you if you notice, but when you're scrolling, you're not present. You are in this kind of dreamy space where nothing else exists because you're just in it. And I don't like how much time goes by when I'm scrolling, or one YouTube video to the next, to the next, to the next. And so very mindful of my consciousness and where I put it. And back to the creator side, if you're someone who is creating because you want what you have, what you've created to be seen, also being mindful of this addiction to visibility, to being noticed. While it's not a bad thing, I believe that if what you are sharing is meaningful, that should be the focus. If you enjoy making the art and you enjoy creating the product, don't take away the value of the journey because you're so focused on the numbers or the end result, because you can quickly become addicted to visibility. And if you do not get it, it kind of puts a negative feeling on what you've created. And in the worst cases, you start to doubt your own work and doubt your own creation, and you measure it and you say, okay, this video got 1,000 views, so it was good, and this one wasn't good. They didn't like it, so I won't make any more of those. And that's dangerous, because that video is potentially amazing. You then lose your authority as the artist because you start creating for the algorithm and not the people. Yeah, that's something I just couldn't compromise. And you're just creating for this imaginary thing, and not the people. What do the people want? And yes, you want the people to see it, and there is this bridge in between called the algorithm that gets it to the people. But I believe the cream rises to the top. The right people will find you at the right time, in the right season, in the right place, and it cannot be undone. What you create is permanent for as long as these platforms exist. And so I think it's wise to create the things you want to create, but in the way that you want to create them, and not have a third voice that says, no, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't call it this, you shouldn't have this many hashtags, you shouldn't use this color, or you shouldn't do this. You can lose yourself as an artist if you keep adapting to these ever-changing rules of the algorithm. Another thing that is quite interesting is if I tell you to do something that you enjoy doing, but I tell you to do it at a time that doesn't feel right to you, you won't do it as well. You will feel as though you're only doing it because you're being told to. Kind of like telling someone to say sorry to you. It doesn't feel the same when they say, okay, I'm sorry, because it didn't come from a pure place. It didn't come from their own, remorse. It came from being told to say sorry. And it's the same thing with the algorithm. If you are told that you need to post this many times a week, or you need to do this many shorts and this many long form, and if you do it short, then make sure it's not above this, and if you do it long, make sure you have this and this and this, and it takes away the fun when you have to think so much. And for a lot of artists, art is a feeling. It's inspired in the moment. You may have a plan, but you have this kind of magic in the moment that doesn't exist anywhere else, and sometimes you cannot just turn that on and off. So you end up shooting something just because, or you end up writing something just because, and that energy, people can feel that. They can feel when you want to be doing the thing that you're doing rather than just doing another one. And so I encourage you to, yes, it may be good to set yourself a goal to record every week or whatever, but follow the rhythm of your life. If it doesn't feel right, don't force it. I think one of the most important things to note here is that it's okay to be and sit with yourself without using the feeds as a distraction. It's hard if you're someone who, isn't used to being with yourself, but create space for yourself to just be, where you are your algorithm, you are feeding yourself, you are the feed to yourself, and you can observe the things around you, you can appreciate the things around you, and from that place you can create a healthy relationship, or a healthier relationship with social media, the internet, and the algorithm. Because again, this isn't a video to bash the algorithm, it's important. I love seeing all the plant videos come up in my feed, but I'm also aware that I could sit there forever scrolling, and that isn't the real world. And so this is all about balance, and I think as a consumer it's important to understand that balance for yourself. And I think it's important to create rituals and routines around a healthier model of consumption. And the same is true for artists and creators, creating systems that support your well-being as a creator so you can create your best work. I think the way to beat the algorithm if you are a consumer is to stay aware of what's happening and the changes and different things, but also stay connected to that authentic side of you where you can do things your way, and you can get complete satisfaction out of doing that, no matter who sees, no matter who doesn't see. You know what you like, truly what touches your soul is a feeling that the algorithm could never give you. And so I think it's important to spend time with yourself, be grounded, and give yourself space to detach from the web. I hope this has encouraged you. To anyone out there who's a creator, who feels disheartened about their work, or feels like, what's the point? It's too late for me, or no one ever sees my work, or no one likes my work. I encourage you to keep going, and my encouragement for you today is to remember why you started creating. What was it that you loved about it? Was it being innovative? Was it being resourceful? Tap back into that, because those things are still true, even though the systems around your creation have changed. Tap back into the joy, the love for doing something amazing, something that has never been done before. I think that is the beauty of art, and that's the beauty of individuality outside of just being a creator. You get to choose the life that you live and how you want to experience it. That's all I have for today. I encourage you this week to slow down, create space for yourself, and remember who you were before the world started watching.